Hey everyone, I'm Vince. Welcome to my channel. Here I like to summarize books and ideas that I think everyone should know about. So if that sounds like something you like, hit subscribe. Today I'm looking at Bart Ehrman's book, Jesus, Apocalyptic Prophet of the New Millennium. I actually don't think this is a book that everyone has to know about, but I did find it interesting, and I know that a lot of you are interested in Ehrman's works, so here you go. When I summarize a book, I try to make two videos. One's a short video for people to watch just to get an idea of what the book's about, and the other is a longer, more in-depth video for people who really want to understand the book. This is that shorter video. If you like it or are interested, first hit subscribe. Second, you can find the longer video on my channel. All right, to understand this book, it's best to situate it in time. In 1906, Albert Schweitzer released a book called The Quest of the Historical Jesus. In it, he introduced a paradigm of Jesus who was an apocalyptic prophet who thought the end of the world was coming very soon. Over the next 100 years, this was by far the dominant theory of the historical Jesus in scholarship. In the 1980s, though, this view started to be challenged, especially with people like John Dominic Crossan and with the Jesus seminars. It was the thesis of these scholars that Jesus was not an apocalyptic prophet, but was more of a prophet concerned with spreading a message of nonviolence, especially as an alternative to Rome. More than that, they kind of started to claim that this was the dominant understanding among scholars. Well, enter Bart Ehrman in 1990, who wrote this book to counter that argument and to show the masses that the dominant paradigm, what the dominant paradigm actually was. So this is Ehrman's first trade book, and it's mostly full of ideas that are not his, but come from other scholars, and he's just trying to make it accessible. And he does a pretty good job of it, not just making it accessible, but with the amount of stuff that he covers. He goes over what sources we're going to use, making sure to explain why we use them. He goes over the rules of thumb and criteria that historians use to recreate the historical Jesus. Then he shows how this works with a lot of verses he goes over. And by doing so, he shows that the verses and the earlier sources, for that matter, show Jesus as an apocalyptic prophet who thinks the end of the world is coming soon. Then Ehrman goes through the life of Jesus, explaining what Jesus taught and why he taught what he did. And he shows that everything Jesus taught and everything he did was because he thought the kingdom was imminent. According to Ehrman, Jesus taught that we should love one another and be nonviolent. And that's because he believed that in the kingdom there would not be any violence and everyone would love one another. So you might as well go ahead and start now. Jesus was said to have cast out demons and healed people. And this is because in the kingdom there would be no demons and no disease. So again, might as well go ahead and start now. Jesus also believed that when God came back very soon, there would be a great reversal. And so people who were rich and mighty now would be brought low, and people who were low would be exalted. And this is why he taught that we should lower ourselves and become servants to all. Jesus did teach that he was the Messiah and would be, after the coming of the kingdom, the king of the Jews, but he taught it in secret only to his disciples. So this is why it took Judas to betray him. Judas told the high priest of Jesus' sedition. And eventually this did make it to Pilate, and Jesus was executed as a would-be rebel. Now, something about miracles, and especially about the resurrection. Ehrman argues, and has been arguing ever since this book, that there is no way for a historian to prove a miracle. In fact, a historian can't prove anything. They can only give probabilities. And by definition, a miracle is highly improbable. What a historian can say, though, is what others said about the miracles. So we can say his followers saw him after his death, and they thought that he rose from the grave. In the final chapters of the book, Ehrman asked this question: if Jesus was all about the imminent kingdom and being loving and nonviolent, how did Christians, or maybe we should say most Christians, come to worship Jesus while at the same time forgetting about all the nonviolence and the love part? Later, he'll end up writing a full book about this called How Jesus Became God, which, by the way, I summarize on my channel. But for right now, he gives a shorter answer, and that is, after Jesus' resurrection, his followers started looking through Scripture to find more and more information about Jesus. And what they found there, especially in the prophet Isaiah, was that, at least that's what they thought it said, Jesus was going to suffer and die in order to take away their sins. And because of his resurrection, they also started to believe that he was God. And so, from that, Christian theologians started to do what Christian theologians do, and they developed more and more theology, and all of it focused on Jesus and taking away sins, and little to none of it focused on what Jesus actually taught. Okay, that is my short summary of Ehrman's Jesus Apocalyptic Prophet for the New Millennium. I hope you liked it. If so, like this video, and then go look for the longer version on my channel. And there's a lot more where that came from, so you might as well go ahead and hit subscribe if you enjoyed it.